Hi guys, just wanted to show you my new hopper upgrade kit. It's called Rotor or RTR SEED kit. Basically what you get, a replacement board for your Dye Rotor loader, and you also get the high torque motor, and you also get a high RPM motor depending on your style of play. So it also helps you with, if you have brittle paint, you would want to use high RPM motor because it's less, it's easier on the paint. So let's look at the original rotor board right here. You got the motor, you got the jumper to turn the LED off. The LED is right here under the switch, and you got this switch here that shuts the power off to the motor when there's when the balls are stacked in the hopper stem. So this would be your the bottom part of the Dye Rotor. This is where the balls would go into the feed neck, and the way rotor works is you have a planetary mechanism of sorts. So let me see if I can put this together. So this part would be here, and normally this will be spinning freely like this, with this pan being static. So you'll have the red part spin, but the black part would be static. Now once it starts feeding balls into the scooping up the balls and feeding them into shoving them down the feed neck, the balls are eventually going to stack up. Let's say if you're idling, your gun is not shooting, the balls are going to stack up, and eventually it will no longer be able to shove any more balls down the feed neck. So what's going to happen, the way planetary mechanism works, this black pan will start spinning in the opposite direction. When the black pan starts spinning in the opposite direction, when the feed neck is full of balls and it's not, it can't feed anymore, the black pan will start spinning in the opposite direction, rotate this gear, and this gear would push this white lever down and onto the switch, and the switch will just cut the power off to the motor. So basically when your gun is idle and the rotor has balls stacked in here in the feed neck, it just shuts the power off to the motor, which is really nice design. Now, an interesting question is, why are they charging 150 to 200 bucks for this hopper? This hopper is completely brainless. It's basically, it has electromechanical shut off. It doesn't sense if you're firing or not. All it does, it keeps stacking balls into the feed neck until there's back pressure, and the back pressure just cuts the power off to the motor. So in my opinion, this hopper is not worth 150 to 200 bucks they're asking. This is like a $59.99 hopper, and the only reason why you're paying this price is basically for the brand name and the mechanical design. So whoever came up with this is probably patented to death, so no other manufacturer can duplicate this function. So, but this is really interesting design. So I'll give props to Dye engineers for coming up with that. But the price point of $150 to $200 is completely ridiculous for this design. Maybe you're paying a little bit more for the plastic because the shell is really. This is a high temperature plastic. It's very reliable, very strong. So I see where the cost might come in, for the plastic. But again, 150 bucks for this design is absolutely ridiculous. And you have the anti-jam function. Basically, when you pull this, it'll make the pan and the paddle kind of backspin and a little bit in the opposite direction and unjam, which doesn't work half the time. So a company called SEED Paintball released this upgrade kit, which gives you a replacement board and also replacement motors and a small replacement gear for your Dye Rotor. So let's look at this board right here. So what you have here is these two devices here that looks like microchip. Those are transistors that control the motor, rotation and counter rotation. They just change the polarity to make the motor spin in different directions. This chip right here is accelerometer, so it'll sense the movement of the hopper and the gun, and also it'll sense the orientation of the gun. So as you rotate this board, the accelerometer will send commands down to the CPU, which is right here. This chip right there is the CPU, and this will change the perform certain tasks based on where the position of the accelerometer. So they're using the position of the accelerometer to go to flip through the menu items. So this is a programmable board. So to program it, you basically turn the hopper on upside down, and then as you tilt it a certain number of degrees, it'll switch between menus. It'll switch between different settings in the menu. Alright, let's put this puppy together. Remember I mentioned you get a replacement gear, this gear right here. To remove it, you have to push, right here was a really like a sharp, I don't know, some sharp object. Basically you push that back, and this piece will pop out, and then you just use your pliers to remove it completely, and then you would reinstall your new gear and then push it back in. The gears, like I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the gears, they are nearly identical, but there's actually a slight difference in the shape of those teeth right here. The slanted ones. So make sure you know if you do get one of those kits, don't be lazy and actually swap the gear, even though it looks identical. So what else do you get? I'm gonna be using high torque motor. There's also high RPM. I'll try this later. This is just going to be my initial installation. So put the motor back in. Make sure this back part right here snaps into this notch right there, and reinstall the board. There's little plastic guides for your board to sit in, and tuck all the wires in neatly, so when you put the top part on, it's not gonna jam. Once you put it together and reinstall the top part, there's two holes up here, and there's two hooks on the top part. Make sure this hook onto the holes, like so. Okay, I think my board is misaligned. Okay, there we go. So now I'm gonna reinstall the screws. Remember, when you're putting the screws back in, don't just shove them back in and screw them in, because you will actually very good chance that you'll cross-thread the old thread in the plastic. So the proper way to reinstall the screws into the plastic is you unscrew them until you hear a little snap. There you go. That means the screw fell into an old factory cut thread, and then you would put it in. So this way I can remove and reinstall the screw many times without damaging the thread in the plastic. Otherwise, once you destroy the thread, the screw will just fall out, and this thing will open up under pressure from a little foamy pad on the motor. Okay, now there's two holes here for the battery pack. This hole, if you look closely, you'll actually see the board. You'll see the surface of the board under it, so don't install any screws or into this hole, otherwise you'll damage your board. So the only screw you'll be using is this one right here. So we'll reinstall the Velcro and the battery holder. So, slightly more difficult to do this on camera. Okay, there we go. And there's a little short screw. It goes into this hole, same rule applies. Spin it in the opposite direction until you hear a little snap. Put it in. Now if you look here, there's a little flat spot on the battery leads. This was from the original factory installation. This thing was actually clamped in here between the battery, caught between the battery holder and the body of the mechanism. So there's no insulation exposed, no copper exposed. So insulation is just a little bit pinched. So when you reassemble this, make sure you don't
make the same mistake as whoever assembled this thing at the factory did. So I'll put the battery back in, and remember to push this trigger forward, so this this hook here goes in front of this white paddle lever, whatever you want to call it. Also, don't forget to reinstall your battery, your button, your on-off button. So I'm just gonna shove that in. Okay. So make sure we're nice and focused right here. Okay, so I'm gonna drop the ring back in, and I'm gonna put back the pan. So as you can see, like I mentioned, these right here in the pan, they'll, or rather, the red gear will spin in this direction in a stock installation and shut the power off when this feed neck is full of balls. So we install the pan. The feed arm. Okay. Put this back in, put that back in. Nope. That's actually supposed to go under this. Okay. Put the batteries back in. Okay. I'm gonna fix that before OCD people arrest me. Okay, there we go. So let's turn that on. So sounds like Spire, doesn't it? Pulsing motion. And so I'm gonna stick my finger in there and pretend it's. And there you go. So now it's the same condition as if the feed neck is has a stack of balls in it and it can't feed anymore. I sense slight pressure, but this comes from the spring inside. It's probably, I don't think it's a motor, it's just the spring mechanism. Yeah. So the pressure comes from the spring mechanism. So there's no actually power wasted on the motor pushing the balls into the stack right now. So let's see how the jam mechanism works. There's the anti-jam. So anti-jam won't always kick in because it has to actually sense the vibration from the gun. There's anti-jam again. So again, anti-jam will kick in a very specific condition where it's sensing the gun firing and no balls being fed. And here's how the menus work. If you turn that on upside down, there's the menu settings 1, 2, and 3. Let me focus that. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Factory. The purple one is the factory defaults. So if I pull this while it's in purple, it'll go into factory defaults. Alright, let's go over the menu items. So the green LED is accelerometer sensitivity setting. Values are going from 1 to 6, and the factory default is 2. So what this is tells you, it lets you select how sensitive the hopper is to the vibration of your gun, to the recoil of your gun. So you will want this set to low for Tipman 98, you know, or Tipman A5, and you would want this set to high or medium high for lax, bob long, and anything that shoots that has very little recoil. It all depends on the weight of the bolt and basically the weight of the moving parts inside the gun and how far they travel and how fast they travel inside the gun. So you don't want you don't want the hopper to feed unnecessarily just because there's a slight vibration on your gun, and you don't want it not feed at all because it doesn't sense the recoil. The red setting is how many shots can be fired without the new paintballs being fed, and anti-jam is performed. So this will depend, this setting will allow you to set how high, or this setting rather will depend on how high is your feed neck. The longer your feed neck, the more balls you're gonna have stacked above your breech, and the more balls you can fire before the hopper needs to refill the breech and the stem of the feed neck with new balls. So again, you have to play with the setting depending on the size of your the length of your feed neck. The blue setting is anti-jam force. So there's some simple settings and also combo settings. So low force, medium force, and high force. So you'd want low force for brittle paint, or if you're using high torque motor, and you'd want high force if you're using the high speed motor, if you're using high RPM motor, because they'll have a lot less torque here at this end. So you'd want the board to apply higher voltage to the motor, not higher voltage rather, but send more power. I'm not going to go into detail. It uses pulse width modulation to control these things. So basically you want the board to send more power into this motor to perform the anti-jam function. And you have very high force, and the setting number 5 is the default, is low force double action. I played around with the hopper, and I figured out what the double action is. Basically it'll make the arm go back twice. It'll go once and the second time to perform anti-jam, so it'll kind of shuffle the balls around. So it's just a more reliable way of doing the anti-jam, and the trade-off is that it's going to take longer to unjam the balls, so you're going to have a longer delay between the shots if you have a jam. And the last setting is purple, which is the factory defaults. And the way you change the setting is you turn the system upside down. Hold on, let me refocus that. Okay, so there you go. And when you start tilting it, you're gonna have your red setting, your blue setting, and your purple setting. So we would want to change, say, the anti-jam force, the blue setting. So if you pull the unjam trigger once, it'll tell you what the existing setting is, which is 5. And see, there's a slight delay after the setting, after the current value, before it starts flickering again. So if you pull this and let it flicker the existing preset, now if you pull it 3 times, that'll become the new setting. So there you go, 1, 2, 3. And that's it. So we'll change it to the default 5 again. We can do it through here, or we can set it to factory defaults mode. There is factory defaults, and let's see what the blue setting is now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go, back to factory defaults, and I can just turn it off. So if I turn it on, it does similar to same thing the Spire does. There is your anti-jam function. This is I'm simulating the balls being stacked in the feed neck and going all the way up into the top of the hopper, so it'll stop feeding. And there it goes again. So, and let's see if it'll detect the recoil. So when it lights up blue, that's it detecting the firing action of your gun. So that's it. So that's basically the review and assembly of SEED kit for the Dye Rotor. So there's a lot of opinions on the internet. You know, a lot of people asking, well, which loading system is the best? Is it Prophecy, Z2? Is it Halo 2? Is it Pinocchio? Who do we have? We have Spire. We have multiple versions of Spire, and there's a ton of additional virtue boards for all kinds of systems. So in my opinion, the Dye Rotor is mechanically the simplest one and the most interesting and reliable design. And I mean, it is loud, yeah, but you know, no one cares about this one. Especially if you're playing speedball, no one really gives a crap, you know, that your hopper is loud. For woods ball maybe, but as long as you have paint in it, it's not going to make any sounds anyway. So you know, and the spire is actually does the buzzing sound when there's a little bit of paint left in the spire. It'll do the buzzing sound. It's the same similar effect like the Dye Rotor does with the seed kit when it's empty. So it'll have the actuator mechanism just, you know, do like a half turns every quarter of a second or so. So anyways, in my opinion, the worst material is in Pinocchio. I see a ton of Pinocchio hoppers with just bits and pieces missing. So electronically and mechanically wise, I don't think there's anything special in Pinocchio. Yeah, you know, it does give you a high capacity option, but material wise it's absolute crap, so stay away from Pinocchio. It'll crumble on you, and you'll just, you know, you'll be you'll be constantly stressed out about the condition of it, because it's just going to deteriorate, you know, over and over and over. Get worse and worse basically it was used. So I've used Prophecy Z2. I like Prophecy. It has some issues as well, namely the way you disassemble it. You know, a lot of people say, oh well, I can disassemble Prophecy Z2 in 10 seconds. Yeah, you can, but you know, so can I with the Dye Rotor. So for me, Prophecy Z2 is too smart, and there's actually hidden menus in Prophecy that you can program by. You know, if you turn it on, hold the left button and then press the right button, and there's a combination. You can look it up on the internet. Some of the settings are not changeable, even though it looks like you can modify them, but you can't. In terms of jam, anti-jam function, it's fine. Basically, Prophecy has anti-jam, Prophecy Z2 rather, has anti-jam built in from the factory, where the Dye Rotor only has mechanical anti-jam, which is not the best. So that's why I got the seed kit for it. My opinion with the seed kit, the dye is will be the most reliable of all. That being said, I do not recommend that you buy the rotor brand new. Get it used. You can get them for anywhere between $80 to $120 used. Brand new, it's about $150 up to $200 in Canada. So totally not worth the money, especially with the stock board. I mean, it's completely brainless, and you know, you're paying through the nose for a very basic system. So number one is Dye Rotor with seed kit. Number two would be Prophecy Z2. Number three would be Spire, and after that we'll have Pinocchio and whoever else we have on the market, and all the other models from all the major manufacturers. This is just my opinion. The plastic is far superior in this loader to any other. You can step on it. You know, this is high temperature plastic, so it'll survive you know, being burnt and so on. Prophecy Z2 has thinner shell, so it gives you the weight savings. But you know, I don't mind the extra couple of grams on my gun. It, you know, doesn't really impede my gameplay. So this is just my opinion. So if you were to buy this, if you're looking for a loader, get a used rotor, and if you can, find a seed kit on eBay, online, on the forums, put it in, and you'll have the best hopper ever. If you can't, go for a used Prophecy Z2. Halo 2 is a great system, but the problem with it is it's a pain in the ass to take apart and clean it. So I think it's $79.99. So if you don't have a lot of money, it's one of the best investments you can make at the Halo 2. And you know, if you want high capacity, get Pinocchio, but be prepared to watch it crumble in your hands. That's it. See you later.